Hi, my name is Mark and welcome to my didactical lesson design for literature and culture in the classroom. I was hoping to present a book to my students of Restaurant og matfag. I teach VG1 and VG2 and there is a book that I personally very much enjoy. It's called Kitchen Confidential: Adventures in the Culinary Underbelly by Anthony Bourdain. How will we present this book to the class? I thought I might focus on ways of reading by firstly activating prior knowledge, being aware of the text's structure, using a reading strategy, and some post-reading activities. Why are we doing this? The competence goals for VG1 and VG2 are vocational education program. As I'm sure you are aware, I've seen before, evaluate and use a suitable reading and writing strategy adapted for the purpose and type of text. And here a learning goal I thought would be the pupils will be able to use a reading strategy to understand and appreciate a text. Understand and use a general vocabulary and an academic vocabulary related to one's education program. Here the learning goal that the pupils will learn to use new vocationally relevant words, which the book is quite full of, and also understand the main content and details in texts of varying length about different topics. So here the students can understand a lengthy text related to their vocational topic. We're getting into extensive reading here because it is quite a long book. And I was inspired by what Day and Bamford were talking about when they were wondering how to encourage students to read texts that they find interesting and for their own enjoyment. And for that to take place, the text needs to firstly be at the student's ability level. And here this book is quite approachable, colloquial language, relatively easy to understand for students at this level. They should be able to read for pleasure. And this book is arguably quite pleasurable to read. Wikipedia describes it as a confessional narrative and an industry commentary providing insightful and humorous anecdotes on the cooking trade. They should also read for information and understanding. And this book is vocationally relevant with extensive use of industry terminology and descriptions of work environments. I really like this quote from Day and Bamford that when learners are reading material that is well within their linguistic ability for personal interest and for general rather than academic purposes, it is an incentive to reading fluency. And I'm hoping this book will satisfy both criteria. And finally, they said that teachers have to be good examples, and I really love this book, and it seems to be right up the students' alley. I was also thinking there might be some possible challenges with this text, given that there is the occasional controversial subject material with drugs and alcohol and tobacco, some coarse language, and I was wondering, is it appropriate perhaps for students at upper secondary education? But then I thought, no, there is a precedent for this in both films and literature. So I thought the advantages outweigh the disadvantages in this case. Starting with activating prior knowledge, Tishakov advocates that teachers should activate schemata. And I thought we'd do this with a pre-reading reflection activity, asking the pupils if anyone has ever actually worked in a professional kitchen. I've also, by the way, just put the classroom's instructions that I will be doing in bold. Ask the pupils to describe their experiences working in a kitchen. Were they positive? Were they negative? Does anybody have any funny stories? Just as a gateway to start. And while Tishakov notes that personal anecdotes may not be as effective in aiding comprehension, we don't really have a reading guide for this book. It's not Shakespeare, but I thought it might be a good way to engage the students in the text. It also might uncover that the students have actually not had any experience in a professional kitchen, which could pave the way for the text. Moving on with the schema, I thought I might present a picture of the author and ask if anybody recognizes him. Some may not. Nonetheless, we could brainstorm what they already know with a mind map on the board, some keywords, some pictures about the author, Anthony Bourdain. He's a chef and travel documentarian. The book is based in New York in the US and travels around a bit. Quite a number of restaurants, famous restaurants are mentioned. Perhaps the pupils have heard of those, or the least they may have seen his TV programs. Colley and Slater recommend an activity involving the cover and the title. Ask the pupils what they can expect. We look at the cover of the book and take a few minutes to reflect on what the title might reveal, write down their thoughts on what the book might be about and what ideas the title of the photo suggest. Some verbal prompts might be, what might we infer from the word confidential? What kind of chef does he look like? And write those thoughts down. We can also then open the book and look at the table of contents, getting to what Tishakov was talking about with text structure awareness, and see if they notice anything about the names of the parts of the book. It follows a standard classic French menu progression with appetizer, first course, second course, third course, dessert, which also quite coolly reflects the author's progression through his career. And I thought we might hear from the author himself, since audio recordings or shared reading in a classroom situation is advocated in extensive reading circumstances. So I thought it'd be cool to listen to him read his first chapter, A Note from the Chef. Students can follow the text. He has a very engaging reading style, which I think would be great for the students to hear. And moving on to the classroom activities, I was inspired by the Readers Theatre, especially the developed model. So adapted that a little bit. Chapter 16 is a very humorous anecdote based on a language faux pas that the author commits called What I Know About Meat. And that text could easily be adapted into a script with a narrator and the three characters, which the pupils can act out in front of the class. This might help them understand and, albeit appreciate, the text. The author also mentions some of the music, songs, genres, bands that he likes to listen to in the kitchen. And I thought we might also play some of those songs in the classroom too, to set the tone. Reading strategy. How should the pupils read this book? Obviously, it's a lengthy book, so the aesthetic approach, as opposed to an efferent approach that Rosenblatt was talking about, or Breivik's Nike Just Do It strategy. So overall, I think the pupils should be reading for enjoyment, and if they come across a word they don't know, just try to infer the meaning from the context, but most importantly, just keep reading. Just jump over what you don't know. That said, I don't think it should be either or. I think if they find some industry terminology that they would like to learn, make a note of it, but then look it up afterwards. So don't let that sort of disturb the reading process. That way they learn new vocationally relevant words. After they've read the book, like Colley and Slater talk about, we can explore their reactions to the text, have a class discussion with open-ended questions. Was there a particular event in the book that stands out in your memory? Do you feel that you learned something new? And perhaps most interestingly, is anyone interested in reading his other books? Here the goal being that the pupils can show that they've understood a lengthy text related to their topic. The author has a number of other books in the same style and topic area, which hopefully can inspire these future chefs to read on, not just because they have to, but because maybe they want to. Yeah, that's all I had. There's the references. Thank you. Bye-bye.